What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are doing a stream today. If you've seen on social media, if you've seen on really any of our platforms, we've sort of been announcing this since last night. This is our Puerto Rico stream, our fundraiser stream, in which all donations from this stream will be going to nonprofit organizations in Puerto Rico. And what we're doing is we're also going to have some sports talk along the way. But remember, your donations will go to nonprofit organizations in Puerto Rico. Alejandro and I helped sort of put this together, and he really came up with this list. So the organizations that will be donating to are Techos Pa Mi Gente, Salud, and Plenitud PR. The notes and all that stuff are in the description. So we will be handling that as we go here. First up, because this is going to be a little bit of a marathon, we're doing 3 shows back to back to back as we're doing these donations. 8 o'clock right now, we're going to get some Canes talk with the crew from 6 Rings Canes of 5 Regions Sports. As you see here, at 8:30, we're going to get into the NFL and the Miami Dolphins with some people from the 3 Yards Per Carry crew. And then we have Miami Heat and the NBA at 9 p.m., 5 Regions Sports, 5 on the floor, etc. So we have Vish, we have Danny Gillette, we have Jazz Santana. Welcome, guys, to the stream. How's everybody feeling?
Doing all right, man.
Doing
thank you
good.
for having us, especially for a cause like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So remember, people, just send those donations, all the super chats. We are going to make sure that they go to the people who need it the most and not just like the Red Cross or some shit. Okay, going into the Miami Hurricanes now with what's going on here, dropping to number 25 in the country. And people are freaking out because they lost to Texas A&M. Vish is already smiling. You know, the offense struggled. It was a 17-9 loss. And they're 2-1 so far. Just what's the pulse? And you guys obviously kick it around. Y'all are going to be the knowledgeable folks here when it comes to the Hurricanes. But really, like, just what's sort of the pulse, and what are people like? Are people overreacting, or what's sort of happening here in reaction to this loss to Texas A&M and how they feel about the U going forward?
I'll let Vish handle that, but before we would get to that, I wanted to kind of tell to the people in Puerto Rico. My great grandfather was Puerto Rican, so I do have a lot of Puerto Rican background as well, with family and whatnot. So, and they've been slammed over there the last 5 years, right? With some big time storms, and I'm sure we all know or have family that has been affected by it, or that knows someone that's been affected by it. So make sure anybody that's here that's listening to sports, forget about what we're saying, just donate. Make sure you make those donations for those charitable needs, and whatever we can do to help out the people in need over there in Puerto Rico.
For sure.
We definitely want to do that also. But yeah, people are overreacting, but I'll let Vish handle it, because I get very emotional about this stuff. If you watch my show on Monday, I want to rip people's heads off. So I'm gonna let Vish do it, because I'm already getting there with the whole Tyler Van Dyke thing. Vish, go ahead, man.
Yeah, before I start, I just want to echo what Jazz said. I mean, Puerto Rico, these are American citizens. We all in Miami know what it's like to get devastated by a hurricane. So yeah, anything you can do to help would be great, to support our fellow Americans down in Puerto Rico that are going through. And it seems like increasingly just getting hit by hurricanes, like Jazz said, that kind of devastate the entire island. So anything we can do. Yeah, says it best, 3 storms in 5 years plus an earthquake. Just unbelievable. So yeah, anything you can do to help. And as Brian said, the charities have been vetted. This is going to the right place. So make sure if you have a little change, kick it in there. To much less serious matters, although according to our fans, probably more serious matters, is it's a complete overreaction. I think, Jazz, our show ended up running quite a bit long on Monday, because Jazz kept yelling at people in the chat. So I think that's why to de-escalate, he kicked it over to me. But yeah, it's just one loss. I think, all the recruiting momentum and in the offseason, everyone was so excited, and then went out there and didn't even score a touchdown. I think people have lost their minds, to be honest. If you look at the game a little bit deeper, played well, just could not finish drives, and that's why the team lost. And they're a lot closer to being really good than the score indicated. And I think, it's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes. So we've got a lot of overreaction that kicked into overdrive with all the stadium stuff, and it's been a crazy week. It's been a crazy week of overreactions and kind of, I would say, playing the result. We're very comfortable as Miami fans saying when the team plays bad and wins that they still played bad. We're not very good at saying they played well when they played well and lost. And that's kind of what happened on Saturday. So it's a complete overreaction. I think the team will be fine, though. DJ, I don't know if you have anything you want to throw in there.
I was just going to say really quickly, thank you for this platform, and please donate whatever you can to help the citizens of Puerto Rico. This is a great cause, and I appreciate everybody for helping us put this on and for you guys for putting this on. But as far as the Hurricanes are concerned, this is definitely an overreaction. People got excited about, all the offseason moves, kind of echoing what you said, Vish. And, Rome wasn't built in a day. We want the Hurricanes to go 12-0 in their first season, but it's not going to happen. There are going to be bumps in the road. Nobody should panic. I thought, Vish kind of said this on our show on Monday. We kind of felt not satisfied after the loss, but it wasn't a blowout loss, so there was some growth there. And, I'm going to be interested to see what happens from here on out, but I just can't believe some of the overreactions. I think it's a little too premature to be overreacting right now.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I had to find the mute button again. Story of my life, by the way, if you guys watch our show. I seem to mute myself every once in a while without even realizing it. But yeah, man. Thanks for the donation. Listen, it's always an overreaction with Miami Hurricanes fans. We have some of the most irrational sports fans in all the sports, period, right? It's not even college football, just all the sports. We're just irrational fans. We're passionate, right? So when the team loses, it's it's the end of the world. When the team wins, we're back and we're winning national championships. That's the irrational fans. I'm not talking about the Vishes of the world or me or some of the regular people, right? But that's it's complete polar opposites, right? It's like one opposite side, one side of the spectrum, and all the way on the other side. There's no kind of rationalization or thought behind some of these things, right? It's a very knee-jerk reaction to everything that happens with Miami. So, which is the same thing that happened with the Tyler Van Dyke thing, right? There's a lot of things that got taken out of context. There's a lot of things that weren't even said. That Barstool and some of these idiots out there that are putting out content said, and I have no shame calling people out when they put stupid crap on the internet, because I just think it's ridiculous, right? And they're trying to create a narrative and they're trying to get clicks, and I get all of that. But the fact of the matter is that he didn't speak any lies, right? He spoke facts. We're not a college town. This is not a college atmosphere, okay? And as Mike Ryan put it, when we were at the pinnacle of college football, okay, winning national championships, the best team in college sports, we had 30,000 people at the Orange Bowl against Temple. Okay. This is not anything new for the Miami Hurricanes program. Okay. We don't get 107,000 fans. Mike Ryan put it perfectly. We split time with 3 other franchises, right? You talk about the Heat, you talk about the Dolphins, and I'm going to say the Panthers. I didn't even throw the Marlins in there because let's be honest, nobody goes to the damn Marlins games either. Okay. So I'm going to tell you right now that, yeah, it's definitely a complete overreaction on what he said as well. And I actually love what he said about, playing on the road, right? He loves to have that, people screaming and people shouting at him obscenities, and he feeds off of that. And, obviously, we didn't win the game on Saturday, but, it was a bit of a domination on both sides of the ball. Special teams was where we struggled. Of course, we made some mistakes. They capitalized on some of the mistakes, and they ended up on top, right? And it is what it is. There's no moral victories. A loss is a loss, but there's a lot to build from there. So we're really excited to see what happens in the future with this program.
Just on the atmosphere thing, like the players that come here know what they signed up for. Like, it's always been that way with Miami. The lows are lower.
Yeah. This doesn't affect recruiting.
If you stink, there's going to be 10 people at the game, and you're like playing in an empty stadium. But when you hit those highs, you're not king of a college town. You're king of South Florida. Like you're not just like big man man on campus, you're a big man on South Beach, right? It's 7 million people living in South Florida. Like you're on that level. So they know what they've signed up for. That's why everyone keeps accepting that challenge to try and bring Miami back. You have immortality there that you never receive in a college town. So they know what they signed up for. It's risk reward stuff. And when the team's not playing well, they know the stadium's going to be empty. This isn't a surprise. It wasn't like, I cannot understand how this went viral, to be honest. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Daddy. Go ahead. No. You're good.
My bad. Real quick. We want to thank Royal for the donation.
Thank you, Royal.
Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in and read that because Royal was gonna call us out if we didn't read it, which I think he already did. So shout out to Royal.
Did he? Oh, I didn't even read it. Did he? Oh, come on.
He says, so y'all not gonna read my comment?
Oh Jesus.
All right, we're good on that. Danny, go ahead. Shout out to Roy. Go ahead, Danny.
My bad on that, but I think his comments were blown way out of proportion. Like Jazz and Vish said, he's not wrong, but I think a coach like Mario Cristobal, knew that if he starts to win here and if he wins here and builds a program, he's going to be immortalized in Miami football history forever. So while Miami may not be a college town or whatever, the rewards are extremely great in comparison to the risks of not having 50,000 people at a game.
And by the way, the noise is going to get louder and louder and louder. It's going to get louder, right? So whether you win or lose, if you win, it's going to get louder because obviously from our fans, right, we're gonna pump our chests out even more. We see a cocky Heat fan, cocky Dolphins fans now, right? You're gonna see the same thing with the Canes, right? And then if we lose, tear everything apart, start from scratch. Like that's typical Miami fans, period. So I think that you just got to weather the storm, man. Continue to build this program like Mario is going to do. Have a little bit of patience. And Danny kind of said this, right? Rome wasn't built in a day. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be trials. There's going to be, a lot of negative things that we're going to have to kind of get through. And to be honest with you, man, I'm sure he didn't. I don't know. I'm not saying he didn't realize it, but there's a lot that needs to be cleaned up in this program, and it's not just a football program. It's not just the players. It starts inside, that hex centers. It starts inside the building with administration. There's a lot that needs to be done there in that program, and I think that just based off of the style of play, just based off of what we saw on Saturday, I think that it's a positive because it looks like the team is trending in the right direction. So we're really excited about that. And yes, thank you for that. We appreciate it. By the way, we're really excited to be partnering up with Fansided as well. So we're looking forward to some big things with that. We're giving the show a little bit of a facelift as well. But as I mentioned on Monday, you're still these beautiful faces will still be there, so you can't get rid of these. But the actual show will have a little bit of a facelift.
Yeah. Jazz will still forget to come off mute. I'll show the wrong thing on the screen. We're not gonna mess with the core and the soul of the show.
What I wanted to ask, for I guess the second half of this is just Mario Cristobal and the first 3 games of, if you want to call it an experiment. And you mentioned Jazz, just Miami fans just freaking out, being up in arms. This is one of the things I started hearing more noise about, particularly after their loss to Texas A&M. And it's 3 games into a tenure that you think is going to be, a long one. You hope it's going to be a long one. And there's already some doubt. Are people overreacting to that? And just what are the takeaways that you can have, guys, from Mario Cristobal's first 3 games? And should he, and I think the answer to this question is yes, should he be allowed more time to sort of, get this team in gear and not be thrown over the top rope after just a few games?
Yeah, I'll be really quick, and then you guys can kind of chime in on that also. But yeah, absolutely, absolutely, they are overreacting. This is a work in this program is a work in progress, as I mentioned earlier, right? This is not a 1-year thing where they're going to turn it around and win a national title in year 1, right? Like this is a 3 to 5 year project where you want to get to the pinnacle of college football again, right? You want to be at the top. It's going to take some time. You've got to build depth. You got to have 3 to 5 top-notch, top 10 recruiting classes to be able to build that depth, to develop your players, right? We're still dealing with a lot of players from the previous regime. And I'm not saying there's not good players on this team. There absolutely is, right? But the lack of development shows a lot in a lot of these kids that are there now. And you're starting to see how a lot of them are starting to grow and become better football players, better leaders, better men. And it takes some time, right? So we've got to give Mario Cristobal that time to be able to do this. This was, and I know Vish will tell you this because Vish is an alumni of the program, right? He's been around. He's very close to the program, a lot as well. He's seen everything. We've all seen it, right? I mean, we've all seen for the past 20 years the downfall and the destruction that all the administration, the past coaches have left in its on their way out. They've kind of left it in shambles. And if there's anybody that can see that the right way, it's Mario Cristobal. But just think about where he's been, right? Where he's coached. He's coached at Alabama, which is the pinnacle of college football, as I keep saying, right? He's coached at Oregon, who has some of the best facilities that college football, and not even college football, that any sport has seen, right? Oregon has some of the best facilities. So he's seen all of this. And then he comes down here and he says, holy, you know what? Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. You're starting to see that $100 million facility that they're starting to build now on campus for football primarily, but for sports altogether. And you're starting to see that little things are changing with Mario. A lot of people were down on it because they said, well, here's the problem, right? Here's the problem with that Texas A&M game, right? Like you mentioned, Brian, 3 games in, some people are freaking out. Oh my God, there's the coach that we saw at Oregon. Oh, so you mean the coach that won a Rose Bowl and won the Pac-12? That coach? Oh, okay. Well, then I'll take that, right? Like, I mean, we're talking about a guy who did that at Oregon, and we're complaining. So, number 1 recruiter in America a couple years ago. So, I mean, there's so many great things about what he does and what he brings to this program. He's a former alumni. He played on some of the best teams in college football that they've ever seen, right? So, like, he has so much going for him that is going to affect this program down the line in a positive way. The Texas A&M game, everybody before the App State game, before they dropped that game to App State, they were like 90% of the fan base was like, we just got to show up and play well and look the part, right? Then App State beats them and like, oh, now it's national championship or bust. Like, just like that. I mean, it doesn't really make any sense, but that's the way, Miami Hurricanes fans are. So yeah, definitely you got to give him a chance. And if you give him a chance, he's gonna be here for a very long time.
Yeah, we all got a taste of the 6 Ring Cane show where Jazz said he's going to talk for a second, and then 5 minutes later he's done with his rant. Yeah, I'll echo what Jazz said. The one thing, we've gone cheap on coaches time and time again, and it showed in the product. It showed in how they conducted themselves too. Other than Mark Richt, who was a professional, high-quality coach, we've pulled in coaches that would never coach at another major program, at least not at that point in their career. Like, we were competing with Temple for coaches, not Oregon. And Mark Richt, we got lucky that Georgia, frankly, fired him after being one of their most successful coaches ever, and we got him because he's an alum, and he basically took the job for cheap. So when Richt was here, and now again, there's definitely a noticeable difference in how the program is being built. Unfortunately, by the time we got Richt, he was basically ready to retire. So he was only here for a few years. But to Jazz's point, coming into the year, everyone's like 8-4, 9-3. That assumed we'd lose the game we just lost. So I don't know exactly what changed after they actually experienced losing that game, but all of a sudden, apparently, everyone thought we were going 12-0. I don't know what happened, but yeah, the sentiment coming into the year was at Texas A&M, at Clemson. Those are going to be really tough games to win. Be lucky to win those games. We just want to play well, be in those games. And then you should win most of the rest, maybe lose another one. 9-10 wins was the goal. And then they go on the road, play really well, lose anyway. And all of a sudden, the coach is a problem. We need an offensive coordinator. Let's switch quarterbacks. Talk about panicking. Fortunately, because we have a proper head coach now, he's not going to panic. He knows what he's doing. And that'll pay off, because in the past we have had coaches that would panic, have done strange things with their quarterbacks mess the entire program up. We're not going to have that here. So everything's going to be fine. We're headed in the right direction. You're seeing noticeable changes in recruiting. You're seeing it show up on the field. Jazz mentioned stringing together those recruiting classes and how it's going to take, 3, 4, 5 of those recruiting classes. You know who has done that? Texas A&M. You know what didn't show up on the field last Saturday? That they actually had a significantly more talented recruited team. You couldn't tell. So think about when Miami starts stacking those classes together and matches that talent. The coaching advantage was on the Miami sideline. So I do not understand the panic. So to me, it's just it's typical though. I mean, I get it. We're Miami fans. We like to win, and we show up to win. And when we don't win, we get panicky. And I think I can totally understand it's frustrating because they should have won that game, and they didn't. And they didn't because they did simple things like not catch the ball. So I get the frustration, but you got to have some perspective, and that is not something we're good at. So it's not surprising that they've gone crazy. But yeah, Mario's going to get all the time he needs, and this program is headed in the right direction. Give it a year or two. They'll be, competing for playoff spots.
I agree. And there was so much fanfare when Mario was first hired that I think people automatically assumed we were going to go undefeated and, win the national championship. But it takes time to build a program, like Fish and Jazz said, and it takes time to establish those connections and, really get a solid plan in place, not just for this season, but for the future. You want to think long-term when you hire a coach like Mario Cristobal, because I personally think he's here for the long haul. I mean, this was a very high profile job, and now he is on his way to try to build back the program.
And by the way, Vish, when you mentioned the playoffs, after in the next year or so, this is going to change to a 12-team playoff, right? So there's more opportunity not only for Miami, but for some of the other teams that are building their programs up, like the USCs and everybody knows that college football is better when USC and Miami are competitive and they're at the top. So that's just going to help as well, because you get a team that's really hot that comes in and plays in that 12-team playoff. That's going to be exciting as well for college football. And I think Miami's going to be right there competing for that, for years to come, if they can continue to do and build what they're doing right now.
To that point, and I guess maybe this will be the last thing we get into before we switch over to the NFL portion of this, but just the general expectations for Mario Cristobal's first season are what? Like what will Miami have to do to call this season a success for you guys? Because I feel like the fan base bar is very high, as Jazz is alluding to and as everyone up here alluded to. But for you guys, is it just winning the Coastal? Is it just that? Or is it, getting a meaningful bowl game, one of the big bowl games, New Year's Eve, whatever the case may be?
Well, I think they're competitive enough to play in the ACC championship game. I think they're competitive, or they're good enough. I mean, just based off of what we've seen, to really be in a position to play in that game. I mean, a 10-win team, a 10-2 team is not far fetched. But we've grown. Unfortunately, we've grown accustomed to Miami dropping a game they're not supposed to. And even though you want to be optimistic about it, you proceed with caution when it comes to that. So I will say that a 9-3 or a 10-2 season is definitely a really good season, because at that point you're playing for an ACC championship game, and if you do win that, right, then the possibility of you being in a playoff is very high, because you did win one of the conferences, right? You won the ACC, who's a very good conference, right? That's a misconception that the ACC does not play good football. They play really good football. Look at what's going on in the ACC this year already. So yeah, I think that a 9-3, a 10-2 season, competing for the ACC championship and getting into one of those New Year's 6 bowls, and one of those 6, I think is not far fetched. But if they go 9-3 and go right outside of that, I can see that as well.
Yeah, I think they need to win the Coastal for it to be, and that would be in playing the ACC championship game for it to be considered successful. Just because the way the schedule worked out, the two main rivals in the Coastal are Pitt and North Carolina. Get them both at home. You got to win those games, win those home games against teams in your division that are, those are big games for ACC Coastal purposes. You should win those at home, and if they do that, then it'll be hard to lose the Coastal then, because then you get the tiebreaker. Obviously, the A&M game was not a conference game, so it's not going to count for any of this. So if they do that, they should win the Coastal, and I think that's kind of the bar for me, at least.
I'm going to say 10-2 and win the Coastal, and I think I agree with Jazz and Vish here. I think that would be a very fair bar to set, and I think it can be one that can be achieved.
By the way, I know Alf is dying to ask a TVD question.
You can let him in as kind of a transition thing, right? Because we're going to transition over.
There he is.
Hey, Alf.
When he said that, I go, oh man, here we go.
By the way, Brian, I know that you're a huge Dolphin. I mean, you're a huge boxing fan.
I am.
Do you see right behind me? Let me move out of the way. See up there?
Oh,
next to the American flag?
That's the WBC?
That's a WBC belt.
Ah.
That's a Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns WBC belt.
Oh.
A replica. It was given away at a show that they did to commemorate their first fight, which was in, I believe, 1979.
Yeah, sounds right.
It was their anniversary. They did a show. They both autographed that belt, and I have it in my office.
Wow,
that's very cool.
Yeah, I want to ask about Tyler Van Dyke. He has been an absolute disappointment. I understand that he hasn't had the weapons, and they don't have the people on the outside, but this is supposed to be a big year for him. He was supposed to be a first round pick. He's supposed to be a first round quarterback, and I don't think that it's too far fetched to just lay that defeat against A&M at his feet. I don't know what you guys think.
I mean, I can say a little bit. Yeah, I think it's a little much to lay it just on his feet. I think that there is some throws that he's going to want back in that game. Definitely, I think that you can tell that he's not the same that he was last year right now. Right, he looks like he's struggling a little bit, and you can tell on some of the throws that he made that he definitely wanted some of those back. I will say this, when you're working with 9 drops, 21 of 41, 30 of 41 looks a lot nicer than 21 of 41 when you have 9 drops, right? So, but again, it is what it is, right? You can't say anything about that. However, I will say this: I'm not a huge fan of looking at film. I don't know how to look at film the right way like a lot of people do. However, based off of some conversations that I've had with some people that are, that do look at film and do look at what's going on, some of those throws that he missed on were a product of the wide receiver not running the right route as well. So a lot of them are timing routes. You can notice on one of them where he ran an 8 and out, 8 yard and out. The wide receiver ran 9 yards and out, and so that caused the ball to look as if it was, thrown off target. There's another one on an in route that one of the wide receivers ran. I believe it was Michael Redding, if I'm not mistaken, Vish, where when it was kind of like it was not a post, but it was kind of like an in route in the middle of the field, and he, as opposed to making it a sharp cut, he kind of rounded it off, and so the ball looked as if it was overthrown a little bit. So that's one of those balls where you can kind of say, well, hey, wide receiver should have ran a better route. So, but again, you can only count maybe 2 or 3 of those that he made that were off target. Some of the other ones I'm sure he wants back. But he needs to step up with his game, because right now, I mean, there was definitely some wide open receivers in that game that the normal Canes fan is going to say, well, he missed and there was nobody wide open. The wide receivers couldn't get separation. I think that's garbage. I'm not saying that they didn't, but there was some plays that they clearly did get open and he missed them. Whether it was for one reason or another, I don't know. Because again, I don't really watch film like that. However, I will say that he does need to kind of pick it up a little bit and start to make some better throws, make some better reads. He does have a tendency of locking on a little bit every once in a while, but you're starting to notice that on some of the plays he did go through his progressions, couldn't find anybody when they're playing with 8, when they're dropping 8 it's kind of hard to throw the ball as well. I would assume, Alf, you probably know a little bit better than I do on that. But when you're dropping 8 in coverage, especially in the red zone, it's hard to throw the ball down there in the red zone as well. So yeah, he could have made some better throws, but I think that I wouldn't necessarily lay it on him as the reason why they didn't win this game.
Yeah, I felt that
he's struggling, but the whole passing game is out of sync. Like Jazz said, they're not running the routes. Even the last play of the game, it was supposed to go with the sticks. Brashard Smith carried it 3 yards too far, carried it into the defender. Then the ball still got there. Van Dyke fitted it in. He wasn't ready to catch it. He dropped it. The game's over. So it's just obviously they're working hard on this to try and get this synced up. But it's all out of sync. He's missing throws he should make. They're running routes incorrectly. They're dropping passes. And I think once that started on Saturday, it just spiraled. They couldn't do anything right.
Yeah.
From once the first drop happened, the first mistake happened, it just really off the fumble punt. Once that happened, it was just stubbing their toe repeatedly for 4 quarters. He definitely needs to play better. Like, this is not, I don't think anyone, you're frankly full of it if you're like, oh yeah, this is what I expected.
Right.
Coming into the year from him. Expected a lot better. Like, that's for sure. But I think there's room for him to improve because the whole passing game seems out of sync. They haven't adjusted to the new offense well. And they need to pick that up. The running game is light years better than it was, but the passing game just looks out of sync right now.
Yeah, Henry Parrish is he's a Sunday player. He'll play on Sundays. Like, he's legit. Yeah, I watched that game, man. I couldn't help but think, man, the wrong team is winning here. Like, I felt Miami for the first time, and this is the good and this is the bad on Mario. They didn't look out of sorts. Like, that team with Manny Diaz, it snowballs and they lose by 30. And they actually looked like the better team, the more talented team. And it was just it was just one of those games where, I took it a little bit harder than I probably should, since it's an SEC opponent. But I felt Miami let a pretty huge opportunity get away.
And that's where a lot of the frustration is. That's why some of our fans were going into the game saying, look, it's a road game. It's a tough one. We're probably not going to win. And afterwards, they're so upset. It's like, how'd you not win that? Like, you killed them. You dominated for 4 quarters. But to your point, that's a game where if the first half went the way it did under Manny Diaz and that team finds themselves down at halftime after dominating like that, they fold. Instead, they came out and dominated the second half too. Somehow still managed to lose. But it's like you said, it's been a long time since this program's played a good team like that and actually control the game. And they lost anyway, which is the frustrating part. But there's a lot to pull out of that should hopefully translate to wins down the road.
Yeah, there's talent on that team. I think they're going to get it right, and that ACC schedule for them is going to be softer than it is for most years, I think. Save for one game, and even that game, I give them a shot against Clemson. I don't think it's
absolutely.
I don't think it's crazy if they beat Clemson.
I wouldn't be surprised if it goes very similar to this A&M game, very low scoring, a lot of good defense, kind of physical game, and hopefully it's time to catch the ball.
All right, we're going to switch over to the NFL portion of this. Thank you to everyone from our Canes squad.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And
follow
us tonight.
Follow them on social media, Jazz, Vish, Danny. They do a great job. And they were breaking down the state of Miami Hurricanes, but also want to let you know that we are collecting donations for people who missed maybe the top of this. We're collecting donations. We're going to send them to nonprofit organizations in PR in Puerto Rico. And Alejandro provided me the list, and I am looking for that now. Here we go. Techos Pa Mi Gente, that's one of the nonprofit organizations. We have Salud, and we have Plenitud PR. That'll be in the description. So thank you, guys. We're going to transition over to the NFL portion of this. Sir. That is why Alpha's here. I believe Luis is also coming in, right, Alejandro?
We'll see you guys.
There we go. Thank you,
right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
make sure everybody donates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Keep the donos coming.
Keep them coming. Whatever you're able to give. All right. And we have David Eversole, my guy, producer of the Bahama Rican Boys. Good to see you again. All right, guys.
You too, brother.
Hey.
Wait, did the Heat stuff start yet? No. Oh, sorry. See you guys. I'm just kidding. I'm giving Greg a little more time to join the podcast tonight, so I figured why the hell not jump on?
Ethan needs to be here to moderate, otherwise I'll take over the whole show.
No, I let you take over. You ranted at the beginning. I turned on Alf. You don't have any liquid death yet.
Oh, yes, he does. Oh,
You?
yes,
I
he
got
does.
some too. I was telling you, better get your case here before I head to the Bahamas because it looks like I'm heading straight for the damn hurricane. So it's been nice to know you guys. Just be in the heat. We're just gonna sink.
Is anybody watching? Is anybody watching the Steelers and the Browns, and then watching that game with?
Just
like
stop it with. Is anybody watching the Steelers and the Browns?
I have a parlay on the
Because,
game, so I kind of.
But are you watching it with like a sense of arrogance, like our offense is not as poverty stricken as those two are?
What was the over under today? 37 and a half?
Yeah, it was like
it might as well be
37,
14. It might as well be 14. Like
it's very low.
The only thing I saw was Steve Smith ready to throw hands with the Steelers warming up.
I'll tell you, both quarterbacks. I've never seen this before in a primetime game. Both quarterbacks on Prize Picks were under 190 yards.
Wow.
The percent was at 175.
Right? Yeah. And I'm thinking, there's no way he gets that in 6 games.
Somebody's got to
Shootout.
go over.
Yeah, I had a prize. I have a Prize Picks too. I played Najee Harris over 14.5 carries, Chubb over 17.5 carries, and Frymouth with 4 catches.
Okay. Use that code 5, by the way. F-I-V.
Yeah, use 5.
Use your Prize Picks winnings to
spell it
donate to
out,
Puerto
spell
Rico.
it
Yeah,
out.
just like
FIVE.
I do the promo on 3YPC. They're giving you $100. They're essentially giving you money to bet with. And all you got to do is roll it over once. And
No, Vicious giving us $20 to Puerto Rico just to get us to stop talking about the Browns.
I thought we were going to break down this game in real time.
Well, let me ask one question. I'm
Manning
not
cast for
taking
Puerto
over.
Rico.
This is Brian's show. I take over at 9 o'clock on 5 on the floor. Let me just ask this one question, though, because typically the way our network works, this would be the correct order, right? Like the Canes first, kind of the warm-up act, then the Dolphins, and then we close with the Heat. But I'm going to throw this to Alfredo, okay? Because I know he's a Heat guy at heart, even though he's covering the Dolphins.
And no Marlins and no Inter.
Who?
No.
Teams you care about, nobody does. Alfredo, although you are on El Heat. I'll just ask you this. How close are we to the point where I understand football town and all that sort of stuff, but I'm just talking about where the level of it just feels like there's much more excitement about the Dolphins right now than the Heat. I can't remember the last time that was actually true, right? I know part of it is Heat season hasn't started, but also they didn't do a damn thing in the offseason. So I feel like that's part of it too. But like, I don't know. I feel like it's trending that way for the first time since what year?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of
1973, 15 years before the Heat were born.
I would say pre Pat Riley or late 90s. Fans were pretty hot with the Jimmy era. But I'll give you a little bit of anecdotal evidence. I got a ticket rep from the Dolphins hounding me to give them $1,000 deposit for the Cowboy game next year because they're already selling out all the season tickets for next year. And I have a Heat rep that won't sell me an extra seat in section 326. So I would say both franchises are looking up. People are still buying Heat tickets by the bushel, So there's interest. It's just the news. This has been an awful NBA offseason. Yeah. Nothing has happened. Okay, like the season ended. Like I just all I remember is like, okay, they're walking off the court. Here comes the fireworks. Nobody did anything.
No. What the Udoka and Sarver stories aren't enough for you? That's not.
Nah, who cares about all that stuff? Sarver's selling 1/3 of the team. I got 5 on that. Like I'll make a bid for the Suns.
And
who cares?
$2 billion probably.
Yeah. So he's getting paid. Okay, congratulations, Robert Sarver. Ime Udoka, I don't even get the story. There has to be something more. Like, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way that a guy's going to be kicked out for an entire season. Essentially, he's being kicked out because his name is being dragged through the mud. And he's going to have to sit out an entire year for consensual relations.
I don't want to turn this away from Dolphins talk, but I'll just say there's no way he's going to coach that team again.
No, it's over because she's going to lose her job. Right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
She's going to lose her job. And then how's it going to look if he just pops up against the Brooklyn Nets in, let's say, January and says, hey, guys, I'm back. But she's fired. And her career in sports is essentially over while he's celebrated. So, yeah, he's not going to coach that team ever again.
And Ethan just leaves just like that. And no Neil Long courtside.
No.
back to the Miami Dolphins. To Ethan's point, I mean, there's a lot of excitement around this team, but they also have a game coming up against the Buffalo Bills, which is pretty important. Alf, let's start with you. Could things shift dramatically if they don't play well at all? Or are you expecting them to have a strong showing in the defeat or perhaps even win this game against Buffalo this weekend?
Well, if they don't beat Buffalo on Sunday, like when are they going to beat them? I talked about this on the podcast. They're having everything is going their way this week. They're getting a bunch of injury luck. Their own injured guys are coming off of the injury report at record speed. The only guy that is still there is Ethan Carter. He hasn't played since week 1. Hunter Long might not play, but that's it. Everybody else is relatively healthy. While you look at the Bills, they might miss Micah Hyde. They're definitely going to miss Dane Jackson. So Dolphins are getting a ton of injury luck this week. They're at home. They have all of this momentum. The Bills haven't scouted a Mike McDaniel offense yet. It almost seems like he's holding some of it back. They want to play a little bit more, traditional football and stick into zone and keep those 2 linebackers on the field. I think that plays into the Dolphins' hands. They might even play 2 rookies at corner. Like, everything is looking up for the Dolphins to win this game on Sunday. If they don't win on Sunday, then what are we doing? We're essentially just waiting them out. We're waiting for the natural squeeze to happen, which means when Josh Allen makes his $45 million a year next year, then you're just waiting for that team to get weaker as we get stronger, and then you could beat them. But if you're going to beat them as presently constituted, if you don't beat them on Sunday, you're not beating them this year.
We should acknowledge this. Thank you, Raymond. We appreciate that. And obviously we respect the work that you guys are doing too. So thank you for that. And if anybody else wants to donate, Brian's been pushing the links out. We'll continue to push them out here after the show as well.
We are at over $250 so far, if my math is correct, like $255 or something like that. So let's keep pumping that up. But we're off to a pretty good start, and we're going to make sure that this goes into the proper hands. Hey, my family's from San Lorenzo also. My dad's side of the family. My dad's from there, and all his family pretty much from there, from like a little campo in San Lorenzo. So, yeah, we out here.
We can always count on Cap for Life to make an appearance.
Do you guys think that so let me ask you this question on the Bills. I'll go, I guess, go to Lewis on this. Do you think that the Bills, as currently constituted, are close to the juggernaut that the Patriots were in this division for various periods of time? I know they had ebbs and flows during their run, but they basically won the division, 11 straight years? Something along those lines. Other than the 1 year that Matt Castle was the quarterback and they almost won it that year. Is this Bills team of that quality? Is that what the Dolphins are chasing?
We can't say that until they end up winning a Super Bowl, because that is what defined the New England Patriots dynasty, is that they just keep going back. They just keep winning, and over again. They kept showing up that even if you beat them in the regular season, it ultimately didn't matter, because they would just win in the playoffs when it counted. Now, Buffalo keeps getting stonewalled by Kansas City. So until Buffalo actually manages to take them down in the playoffs, the dynasty is the Kansas City Chiefs, as far as I'm concerned. So the LA Rams, not worried about them. Chiefs are an issue. Bills will be an issue. And in some ways, they are more difficult to beat than the New England Patriots of old, because Tom Brady does not have nearly the amount of athleticism that Josh Allen provides. And they're well coached too. They're not on the same level as the Belichick coached Tom Brady Patriots, but Sean McDermott knows what he's doing as a coach. He definitely knows what he's doing. And now with Ken Dorsey as offensive coordinator, making things even easier for Josh Allen, they're definitely hard to beat, but they're not unbeatable. And so that's the thing. All you have to do is basically do exactly what you did against Baltimore. There was execution on all sides of the ball that fourth quarter. Do exactly what you did that time in those 15 minutes. And Buffalo is not this invincible juggernaut. Absolutely not. Miami can win this game. Am I confident they will? I'm going to need to see more before the battered Dolphin syndrome leaves my body. But we'll see what happens on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, this is kind of a real litmus test for the Dolphins in terms of where they are approaching Buffalo, because they're sort of mirror images. If you look at the teams, obviously you have a young quarterback who's taken that next step to approaching the superstar range, where in Miami you have Tua, who looks like he's starting to make that leap and really progress. and they're on similar windows. You have a certain amount of time. The Dolphins are a little bit behind in that chase, so this game will really be a test for them in terms of how they would measure up to Buffalo. But I think with the Dolphins this weekend, you just got to play your game. You've got to attack the matchups like you have been. McDaniel has been really innovative and really creative. So, like Alfredo said, the timing is fortuitous. It's similar to the Baltimore script last week. They had a banged up secondary. It seems like, the scenarios, and every successful team that goes any distance in the NFL is going to catch breaks. You don't win a championship at this level in any sport without having a little bit of luck on your side. It just doesn't happen, whether it's injury timing or specific injuries in these matchups. I think that the timing here is definitely good for the Dolphins to really make a statement. And going back to earlier, how we were talking about like the perception of whether this is a football town yet, I think because there's so much time in between games, you have a whole week to kind of build anticipation as Monday night and then Tuesday rolls on. You get your late Thursday practice reports. And by the weekend, the anticipation is so high, it's like you can't wait for the game to get here. Whereas with the Heat, you've got 2 or 3 games a week. And right now, people are just so excited about the team because it's a complete opposite of last year's team in terms of just excitement, innovation, accessibility. McDaniel is everybody's favorite coach now. It's just they've completely changed the narrative, a 180. Like nobody's talking about what happened in the offseason with Ross and Flores anymore. It's just a completely different narrative right now, unless you're talking about Tua, of course, which that's just another whole oddity that is just really.
No,
kind
you're
of
right.
undermined.
The narrative is completely changing on Tua. Now they're talking about how much of a big play quarterback he is, and they need to make him just dink and dunk in order to knock him down. I'm like, really?
Well,
Last week, you want us to pull up clips of last week where you were saying he can't hit the big play. Now he's saying, oh, the only reason he's good is because he can hit big plays.
but those blown
the goalposts
coverages
are
No,
going from
it was
side
all
to
blown
side. Man.
coverages.
Now ESPN this week has been a clown show. Some of it's actually been pretty amusing. First of all, Chris Canty was actually like he looked angry that Tua had a good game to the point where Dan Orlovsky said, no, it was Dominic Foxworth said, "There's no way you're this mad."
Oh no, I saw him. Like he was like this. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. This is not what
let's,
you're saying.
but let's explore this though. What is it? Because I still don't understand it.
It's this.
Well,
I'm
Keyshawn-
convinced. Did you read Ethan?
Because he's
Did
left-handed.
Did you read that article from Danny Martinez that he wrote about the psychological?
Yeah, I know. I
happens
read
in
it,
the
but,
brain.
I mean, what is this? This is like a bias against left-handed people, like that.
Well,
could be.
Keyshawn Johnson finally came out because they were clowning him hard on that morning show with Kellerman and Jay Will. Like they were making fun of Keyshawn Johnson, and Keyshawn Johnson flat out just said, "I don't like short people." He said he didn't like the Dolphins. He didn't like the Dolphins because Tyreek Hill is 5'8", Waddle's like 5'10", and Tua's a short quarterback at 6'1".
So they're
not going anywhere.
They're inventing new
Keyshawn's
types
reasoning.
of bigotry, basically, to take shots at the Dolphins.
Yes, he's using height bigotry to hide his left-handed bigotry.
But how much is just the Miami thing? Because the Heat deal with this too.
It's part of it because you see it's the New York
Canes
people.
deal with it. Also.
Yeah, it's the New York people, it's the New England people. It's all the same people up there.
But they're all here, Alfredo. Literally,
they are.
just go out
Well, not all.
Well, you were there.
I'm still up.
No, I
I'm still
understand
up.
that, but like the rest of them, I mean, I actually have to go to Open Table to get a reservation now because I can't just walk in anywhere I want in Fort Lauderdale. Why is it? It's because all the freaking New Yorkers, which I was too. But I'm just saying, like they're all here. Thank you, Vita, one of our usual followers here. I spelled to a slander. Thanks for the donation.
Yeah, but I thought Bart Scott's analysis today was I kept retweeting the clip all morning. It was Bart Scott saying the way you got to combat Tua is you got to take away the big play from him. You got to turn him into a dink and dunk quarterback. And I was watching that and I'm like, what?
You
got to turn him into what you criticized him for 2 years.
But Alfredo,
so now he's a big play guy.
You're assuming they've watched him play. I mean, how many of them have actually?
I guarantee you they've watched him play now. They've heard it in their ear for 2 years at ESPN, and that's been the narrative they've been running with. So now they watched him in that Ravens game, and they're like, oh, well, I guess it's completely different. They don't
But
even.
Louis, national analysts don't watch all the games.
They don't watch all the games, but they sure as heck watch the highlights. And Tua was a walking highlight reel.
Okay, they watch the highlights, but I mean, I don't know. It's like small sample size theater with all this stuff because none of them are watching the entire games. I don't.
And they're following a script. They're they have a certain agenda to push, show to show, week to week. It's all result based and reactionary.
So does this mean that all the people who are appraising Tua are actually reading off of the teleprompter?
I mean, pretty much. But you guys, that's how that works, though. Like I used to see the show sheets from ESPN because when I hosted with Israel Gutierrez on 790, he was on Around the Horn. So he would get every day, he would get the ESPN flow sheet. Okay. And it's literally the same 5 topics. Like they would, and basically it is whatever Stephen A is going to talk about in First Take.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about those topics the rest of the day so that we can bring Stephen A's opinion into it. Like they were literally coached to do this. It's the same 5 or 6 topics, except on Undisputed. I thought that was great the other day, Alfredo.
Oh, no.
Literally, because I went back and rewatched it. It was Cowboys talk for 25 minutes.
And then they did a second segment. No, it's ridiculous. Like if you watch Undisputed, I like to watch it every once in a while because I do find it amusing. All right. And I always have it as background noise in my office, right? Because that's what I do. I watch sports all day, right? So I have it as background noise in my office, and I'm completely amused how Skip Bayless has turned a national show, Undisputed, into his personal little sandbox to talk about his favorite teams. The other day he did an Oklahoma segment. I don't know who their quarterback is, but evidently they have a good quarterback that, according to Skip Bayless, is
he was good.
2.0.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler? Is it that one?
Yeah, it was Spencer Rattler.
Not Bart Starr.
They got rid of Spencer
linebacker.
Rattler, and they got some
Spencer
other guy
Rattler's
right
still
now.
here, isn't he? He's the one who's controversial because he lost his job, right?
I thought he transferred.
I'll get him right now. Hold on.
That's probably that probably says a lot. While Alf gets that, I just want to note that we've raised we're around that $300 threshold, so we're going to continue to stream here for another 45 minutes or so. We got about 10 more minutes of Dolphins NFL stuff, and then we have some Miami Heat talk at the end of this, in which Sean Rochester, Tony Schwartz, and I don't know who else will be here, but we'll know at least them two will be here. Alf, did you find what you were looking for?
It's Dylan Gabriel. He's from Hawaii. He played in Hawaii.
I don't know who that is.
He was a top prospect.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Okay, that's the guy that Skip Bayless.
Oh yeah, that's what he was talking about. He's basically the better, bigger, stronger Tua. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So no, you watch that show and it's hilarious. Like
I don't watch that show, by choice. I just can't. I can't.
I mean, I like Shannon, but I mean, seriously feel like Shannon's just
don't give me no Shannon. Like he called him the Guppies every 5 minutes. Like his hate for the Dolphins runs deep. Okay.
Yeah, I remember when Shannon Sharp once called Dan Marino a loser.
Yeah,
he called him a loser after a game after they beat him in the playoffs. I remember that year. With Terrell Davis ran all over that team in the second round of the playoffs. That was one of the best Denver teams of all time, one of the best football teams of all time. I believe they were 14-2. That Dolphin team was pretty good. They just ran into a buzzsaw in Denver. But yeah, back to the Bills. Yeah, they're absolutely dominant. They're the clear-cut best team in the NFL, and you could foresee, not that I'm foreseeing it, but I kind of am. If they beat the Bills, they could start getting a leg up on possibly hosting a playoff game at home and taking the AFC East crown from the Bills. And if they do that, do you like anybody beating Miami in the playoffs?
Oh, well, slow down.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Wait, this goes into a question I wanted to ask before we switch over, is really about Mike McDaniel, who we haven't really talked about. And I mean, people are very excited about that fourth quarter in Baltimore. Mike McDaniel, I mean, is he what everyone – it's very early, it's only 2 games. But is he what everyone thought and hoped that he could be? Yes. And what, could he keep this going in game 3, win or lose?
Absolutely, he can. I mean, like when you can see the palpable difference between what Brian Flores was doing and what Mike McDaniel was doing. These players actually look like they're having fun playing the game, G-A-M-E, game. It's supposed to be fun, game of football now. Something that with Brian Flores, it just almost, it's like it felt so serious. You can't smile. You always have to be on time, disciplined. And it's like, ugh. They're so different now, and you can see it in the way that there's a stronger morale in the whole locker room. Everybody's fighting for each other now, not in the sense that they want to help, they want to win the game, but now it's like, you're my friend, we're gonna make this work. The coach has confidence in us, and it's that's the kind of thing that is the modern day NFL coach. Like, well, who was that NBC Boston guy who said that Mike McDaniel wasn't a good head coach because he wasn't big and imposing? I'm thinking to myself, how many of the new NFL head coaches nowadays are that guy aside from like Brian Flores?
That's some Northeast shit.
Dan Campbell.
Ethan
Dan
can speak
Campbell.
to
Okay,
that.
but Dan Campbell's
some
not like
Northeast
he's
mentality.
big.
Hey.
He's big, he's tough,
Hey.
but the guy's
No,
a big teddy
hey.
bear at heart.
No Dan Campbell slander on this show.
Yes, not allowed.
Who
Okay,
has
fine.
the number one offense in the NFL right now?
With Jared Goff, that won't last long.
The Detroit Lions. Yeah. I think they're making the playoffs. They look good.
Oh, boy.
Hey, what's up?
Looks pretty good.
David's getting pumped.
Bro,
That's- that's what you get.
I'm watching a creep behind you. I'm like, what the heck? Do you not notice?
I'm like, does David notice?
If I blink twice, call for help.
Yeah. To answer the question, Mike McDaniel is like, he's a breath of fresh air, and you just watch his coaching. Like, when you get wowed by one call,
All right, get out of here. Come on.
you know, it's just, it's a different thing. They're backed up at their own goal line. All right, they're at their own 3-yard line, and Mike McDaniel goes empty
Here.
in 21 personnel, puts the fullback.
And
at
I'll
the
bring
tight
my
end,
dog too. Here, let's just
White
ride.
outside.
Break the
Has
circus
Tyreek-
here, yeah.
I'll forget it.
This is always-
You're not. This is not about football anymore.
It's gone way off script now. Say hi, Mozart.
Yeah, Vinny's not around.
Mozart.
Where's Vinny? Yeah, this is Mozart. We just call him Mo.
Yeah, no, Vinny's not around here.
Or
right
big
now.
head. Or big head.
But yeah, this guy's throwing out of empty from his own goal line over the middle to Jalen Waddle. He's unafraid. While most coaches will probably try to run it out of their own goal line, he's being aggressive and try to push the ball down the field.
He's lining
His own goal
fullbacks
line.
up at wide receiver.
Yeah, and he's reflexive over on 4th and 1. He's just reflexive. The offense just stays on there, and he's told him, look, you just stay out there on 4th and 1. Just stay out there, and I'll send the play in. Before, you could tell that they were playing ABC football, and everything was complimentary to not put the defense in a bind. This team is different. This team doesn't care if they put the defense in a bind. They're just going to keep pushing and playing aggressive. And they're going to need to play that way on Sunday. They better not find themselves in a close game like they did last year in Buffalo, where the score was 3-3 late in the third quarter. It was 17-11 in the fourth quarter. And you could see the Dolphins trying to will the clock to get to 0 so they could just lose a close one. No, they got to be daring in this game.
Yeah.
They got to be aggressive. They got to push it.
Alejandro, let's get to this one right here. David, I'm going to toss this to you. 72 Fins logo says, what's the key to victory on Sunday? We'll get to this briefly before we transition to the basketball portion of this. Keys to victory against the Buffalo Bills. And he says to his family and PR, thank you. I think that means thank you, guys. There's a typo there, maybe, perhaps. Let's go Fins. So, David, keys to victory against the Buffalo Bills would be what?
Well, I think obviously, like we touched on, the offense is going to have a good deal of success. So it's going to come down to the defense and how they defend Josh Allen. You're not going to stop him. You're not really even going to slow him down. But you just have to minimize the big impact plays that he has. I'm curious to see if Channing Tindall finally gets to start and would maybe be like in some sort of spy role with him. I'm just seeing like the matchup that what they try to do to slow down Josh Allen if they can, because on the back end, Xavier Howard, he's back in practice. I think he's probably pretty good to go, but Stephon Diggs has been right up there with Tyreek Hill and Waddle this year in terms of just his production. They got Gabe Davis on the other side. So I think it's just limiting the explosive plays, not let Josh Allen beat you on third down, just keeping it manageable in terms of the running game. and just trying to maybe force a couple turnovers, because I think it's going to be a little bit more even than it has been in years past, because Buffalo's kind of been a step above Miami, and I see the Dolphins just in front of this home crowd, which is just going to be it's going to be an incredible atmosphere on Sunday. It's going to be very hot. We obviously talk about the September climate and the home field advantage that we have down here. The spread's 5.5 points, so I'm curious to see if there's any movement in terms of the numbers there. But no, I think the key is just doing whatever you can to try to limit Josh Allen, force him into a mistake or two, and stop them on first down. That's pretty much my takeaways.
If you're going to ask me next, then what I'm going to say is that I think it's going to be not so much limiting Josh Allen. I'm actually going to go the opposite direction. Basically what Alf said, be aggressive on offense. Whatever you were doing in that fourth quarter against the Ravens, just keep doing it. Just don't even stop. Let's do the fifth quarter Ravens, except this time they're wearing blue and red instead. So go after whoever is the weak spot. If they're going to be putting out 2 rookie corners, if Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde are going to be out, which is very possible that they might be in this upcoming game, then just attack. Let Tyreek go up the field, see if they can catch those corners flat-footed again, heave it up there, score touchdowns. Don't even let them breathe, man. Don't even give them a chance. It's going to be hot in Miami. They're going to be sucking air. Just don't take your foot off the gas pedal. Step on their throat. Show dominance. They can do it now. We've seen them do it. I don't care how much Skip and Stephen A want to talk about how they're a disgrace to Ray Lewis and Ed Reed's defenses. The Baltimore Ravens know how to play defense. Okay. These are not absolute scrubs that'll be out of the league in 2 years. These are good players. And so for them to do that in 15 minutes against the Baltimore Ravens, they can absolutely do that to a depleted Buffalo Bills defense. So just keep doing what you've been doing. Score points. Score a lot of points. And after all that is over, then once you've gotten up enough points on the Buffalo Bills, see what happens when Josh Allen suddenly has to deal with cover 0.
Yeah, the Bills play very conservatively on defense. You got to emulate that. If you're the Miami Dolphins, you got to get a little bit out of character. You got to try to duplicate what the Steelers did last year to open the season. Oddly enough, Melvin Ingram, starter now with the Dolphins, was a starter with the Steelers then. You got to emulate what the Steelers did. They rushed 4. They rushed 5 on occasion. They only rushed 5, I believe, 8 times. They played a lot of zone. They played very conservatively, and they forced Josh Allen to try to dink and dunk his way up and down the field, not try to get big shots. You got to limit big plays from the Bills. If you limit big plays from the Bills, force them to go to the distance, and then on offense, you push the pace, you could have a pretty good advantage on the scoreboard, because you could have them playing catch up against a defense that's actually going to not allow big plays. So just don't allow the big play and then go seek the big play on offense. And that'll be the key to victory against the Bills on Sunday.
Miami has to get home with 4 guys, though. The pass rush with 4 guys, they haven't really been there so far. I expect something from Jalen Phillips in this game.
Alf, actually, I had a question for you. And this is pertaining to something that you had said on, I believe it was OnlyFins. You said that Jalen Phillips was one of the better defenders. Can you explain what you mean by that? Because when I saw the game, I didn't see Jalen Phillips the whole game. So
ESPN has a stat called sack win rate, which is a pass rush win rate and pass blocking win rate. Jalen Phillips leads the league in pass rush win rate, which means he's winning on the initial rush. He's just not getting sacks, but he's beating his guy in front of him. So it just has to translate to hurries and to sacks. He's getting there.
Is it just the fact that the quarterback is just getting it out too fast?
That, and also he's drawn 2 holding penalties. In my opinion, holding penalties matter. That should be in the stat sheet. If you're a defensive end and you beat the tackle and you cause a holding penalty, that's 10 yards. That's like a sack. Okay? And we all know, if you watch football long enough, you know that a holding penalty in a drive is a drive killer. Mm-hmm. So if your defensive end is causing a holding penalty, that's a good thing. He's drawn 2 so far in 2 games. He draws 17. That's TJ Watt numbers. So, but he has to get home, and he has to get home this Sunday.
Mm.
All right, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be the game that I'm probably going to be paying most attention to. at 1 o'clock. And I say that as somebody who has to look forward to in his market the Jets and the Bengals. Fun. I was a former Jet fan. I let go in 2015-16. We don't have time for that story as to the reason why, but it's a great story. It's a really good story. Thank you to the 3 yards per carry crew. Follow them. Alf, Luis, David, thank you very much. OnlyFins also, which y'all, batting 1,000 with the names. OnlyFins and 3 yards per carry. Just excellent stuff. And thank you to Sean Rochester for the donation. I'm not gonna read that, but that's an inside joke. If you've been on streams with us, particularly when I read Manscaped ads, and I'll leave it there. Thank you to our Dolphins crew. And we're gonna continue for another 30, 40, 45 minutes or so.
Saving the best for last.
Yeah, and getting these donations in. Sean Rochester, who commented here, is actually going to be joining us, as is Tony Schwartz, and there is Sean right there. We have raised so far over $300 something, if my math is correct, and we're about to raise more because I'm about to make my donation, which I realize I haven't done yet. So I'm about to do that. But welcome, and Alf is hanging out also for a while longer, and Tony has his Philadelphia Eagles hat.
That's right.
I did catch the very end of the betting show you guys just did, where you put the Eagles hat on and you did the whole
Sean seems to believe for some ludicrous reason that the Giants are going to win the NFC East. So I have to stand firm.
Wait, Sean, you said that
3 weeks ago. They're 2-0. They get a win on Monday Night Football. They're 3-0. They play the Bears next week, 4-0. Crazy. Danny Dimes, Saquon.
Did you get a 10? By the way,
no, it's just I bought one of those cool ring lights like Tony uses. It really enhances you. It makes you look a lot nicer. Like I don't know what Tony looks like in real life, but you get one of these ring lights in front of you, man. You're like, it's next level.
I have what is this called? Not a ring light. I have a different kind of light. It's like more square, but like it makes me look a little too pale for my liking. No offense.
A lot of talk has been had about this Cleveland Browns Steelers game. I just saw a triple reverse for a halfback screen that went for first down. People, this is exciting Thursday night football.
Look, I have a parlay, so I should actually.
We started the Dolphins segment talking Thursday night football, Steelers, Browns. Now we're starting the
not good.
The Heat segment with Eagles talk. By the way, Eagles win the NFC East.
Thank you.
I had that.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the case as well with Dak Prescott out. And I'm not a Cooper Rush believer. But enough of that. The Miami Heat, we're going to transition into that now. Remember, people, continue to bring in those donations. We are going to make sure that they get into the proper hands for the people of Puerto Rico who are going through yet another hardship. Because, shoot, America's not necessarily doing what it should to step in and sort of help out to the degree that they should. But anyway, we're doing what we can independently, and we're going to make sure that the money goes into the proper hands. So keep that going. I'm about to actually send mine in a few. But in regards to keeping this program going, the Miami Heat, training camp, media day, all that stuff is coming. And we've been waiting for it and waiting for the NBA season because it's been very, as Alf said, just one of the worst off seasons in, I don't know. Like I thought in the beginning people were just bored and it was an exaggeration. And then as we kept talking about the same things literally every single day on streams, on group chats, in just phone conversations, FaceTime, whatever, Twitter DMs, whatever, it's literally just been like, and the Miami Heat, in terms of their off season, didn't do much. Lost PJ Tucker, added Nikola Jovic, added a few young guys that we'll see, Darius Days, etc. But they seem to be relying a lot on development. And I think that they're a team that is very interesting coming this season because on one hand, they could shock you with their development again, where people think that, they're not going to be higher than like a 6 seed. And then all of a sudden they're in the top 3 again. Like what happened the first year Jimmy Butler was here, right? A lot of people thought, hey, they might not even make the playoffs. And they were second, third, whatever, started falling off a little bit pre-pandemic and then, ended up kicking it back into gear. And then last season, I thought they were going to be like a 3 seed. A lot of people had 4, 5, and they ended up, as we remember, being first. So this year, which way is this going to swing, you guys honestly think? Because very inactive offseason, but they can develop a good chunk of their guys. They have a relatively young in terms of Tyler Hero, in terms of Bam Adebayo, in terms of even role guys like Caleb Martin, Haywood Highsmith. There's room here for development. So let's start with Tony here. Which way do you see this mostly going, objectively speaking?
Yeah, it's just the analyst answer where I think we could see two halves of both, especially going after trade deadline and what's going to be available for the Heat. They're a lot more flexible at deadline than they would have ever been this offseason. So there's a lot of moves that can happen. Look, they start the slate out really strong. They face 6 teams that can play good basketball and put some losses in that column if they're not together at the beginning of the year. So I think realistically, there's a lot of teams with turmoil in the East right now. And they really just need to play for home court advantage. So I think that the season's going to start rocky and fans are going to double down on some of these ridiculous takes and narratives that are out there. And then as the team settles in, Miami Heat basketball is designed to win games on the margin. So you'll see Spo doing Spo things and trying to make the team as good as possible through the front office. And they'll get themselves together, win enough games in the regular season to keep home court, at least be a 4 seed. I really think they're a 3, but we'll see where it takes us. Honestly, the answer to that question is I think it goes both ways. I think they suck for a good stretch, and I think they're really good for a good stretch.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I get what Tony's saying, but you could also lean into the fact that essentially we brought everybody back, and I think that was the fear of a lot of people. But early on, it could be very good that you have that continuity. You have a lot of guys back. I mean, obviously you lose PJ Tucker. You got to figure out that 4 spot, whether it's Jimmy, whether it's someone else, whether it's Darius Days, Haywood Highsmith, going bigger with Omer, whatever it may be, Caleb Martin, all these different guys. But if you followed the Heat the last 20 plus years, the defense has always been there. They're going to be a top 10 to 12 defense almost annually, exception of those couple seasons where they were absolutely terrible. But this isn't that type of team. You have the pieces around. It's just guys stepping up, and I trust the internal growth. So, I think somewhere in that 3 to 6 range is realistic. I think 4 to 5 is probably the most likely, but we didn't expect a number 1 seed last year. It can happen again, and you just gotta compete. You gotta take it one game at a time, basically.
And let me put this out there too. The reason most fans have been pissed off all offseason, right? Because we've stayed steady. All the teams that made, significant changes like adding Ben Simmons and adding Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics, all these teams are kind of facing some turmoil right now at the moment. The strength of the Miami Heat to start the seasons, to Sean's point, might be that we stayed pat and ran it back and had some guys in the organization that know the system, know what we want to get to defensively, and can execute the game plan. I really could see it going either way. You're right, brother. I think we could start out rocky. We could start out really strong. I just think the depth has some wonky moments during the season where, the first half might not look like the back half.
Yeah, I don't think you want that wonky start. I have something to add to that, but I'm going to toss it to Al first. Where do you stand with how things look in Heatland? So
well, I could see a scenario where they could repeat history again. Okay, and nobody's calling this, and nobody's saying it'll happen, but nobody really had Tyler Hero becoming a contributor as a rookie either. But let's say Nikola Jovic comes out and gives you an efficient 10-5-4 on 24 minutes a night. Let's say that happens. Let's say they get that they strike lightning once again, and they find a contributor as a rookie. What was out there that was better than that in the trade market?
But to your point, Alf, I think because as I said at the top of this, you're swapping. Now they're not going to play the same role, same amount of minutes, whatever. If you're swapping PJ Tucker for Nikola Jovic, if you're worried about how PJ Tucker is going to be in terms of health and in terms of usage in Philadelphia, and if you're like me, optimistic that Nikola Jovic could be a top 10 player for this draft class, maybe that's a trade that you make. Although I feel better about it 2 years from now instead of this coming season, maybe. But maybe that's a trade you're willing to make.
Absolutely. And more than anything, health is going to be extremely important. This team was not healthy last year, but they were healthy for the playoffs. Okay. Even though, we understand what happened with Lowry, but let's face it, Gabe Vincent was better than Lowry for most of the playoffs. Lowry essentially showed up for 2 games. Okay. 2 very good games, but 2 games nonetheless. If he's healthy, you could get a good 50 games out of Kyle Lowry and a healthy playoff run. This team is right back to where it was a year ago. And a year ago, we weren't coming into the season. We were pretty happy with the top 4 seed. Top 4 seed put them right in that launching pad to try to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. They got to the Eastern Conference Finals, but not as a top 4 seed, as the top seed. And yeah, everybody was talking about, okay, they faced a weak Atlanta team that was kind of fading at the end of the season, which they were. They faced an injured Sixers team. Well, when you get the 1 seed, you get that benefit. So I think in the East, if you look around, it's imperative that they get a top 4 seed. If they don't get a top 4 seed, they're flirting with an early exit, in my opinion. But health above all. If they're healthy, this team is good enough. They could be somewhere in that 50 to 53 range once again, and 50 to 53 gets you a top 3 seed. If they do that again, they have another shot at an Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah,
because there's really nobody that I look at and I say, oh, we're overwhelmed by them. 1 team, Milwaukee. That's it. I look at Milwaukee and I say, okay, they are clearly, absolutely better than the Miami Heat. But can they be beaten in a 7-game series? Absolutely. So, I'm not too worried. I'm just interested to see, how they skin this cat this time. And hopefully they do strike lightning again, right? Hopefully they get another one of those, like Pat Riley says, another lightning bolt from God. Maybe they repeat Tyler Hero again, but this time with a 6'10" power forward, silky smooth, that gives you 10-5-4 on 24 minutes. They do that, they're right back in the conversation.
Yeah, I'm generally optimistic about their organization just because I have so much respect for how they operate and how they're competitive year in and year out, and how they're more often contenders than they're not. Just historically, especially since Pat Riley got there, they feel like they always have a chance, or every other year, whatever the case may be, like on average, whatever it is, like they're just always in that mix. My concerns would be the following. If I'm gonna start off like glass half empty, which I'm generally not, and this is gonna end glass half full, but my concerns would be the following. 1, the slow start is dangerous to me. If they're like 9-8 out the gate, and you're almost 20 games into the season, and with relative health, or shoot, even if it's not, you're going to have concerns if they're injuries or whatever the case may be. I think getting off to a good start is pretty imperative to how things can go, because you don't want to get bad vibes and things of that nature. You don't want things to just get weird right off the bat, especially with like how last year ended. And it was the Jimmy Butler show, and a lot of other guys, and Bam had his moments, and Kyle Lowry had the moments that Alf was talking about. But for the large, and Gabe was pretty good. Gabe Vincent also at the end, but for the most part, consistently, Jimmy Butler was really the guy coming through at the end there. You don't want it to look like that in the regular season, which it probably won't, and it rarely does. But I'm just saying you don't want that scenario where they're off to a slow start, in my opinion, because then the vibes could get a little weird, and then it's like, how's Jimmy Butler? Like, you good? Like, because this is what you wanted, but like, do we need to get you more help? Whatever the case may be, like as an organization, you're gonna have to ask yourself those questions. And the other thing is Tyler Hero starting. 1, he deserves to start. 2, not sure it's best case scenario for him, because he's not going to have the offense cater to him as he is as a 6-man. So I'm very intrigued as to how that plays out, because as somebody who likes Tyler Hero, and I think he's going to be good this year, I just hope that for their sake, the chemistry is good in the starting lineup to where he can get his, Jimmy can get his, Bam, TBD, but he can get his. And then it's like, okay, the offense is actually flowing. Like, I just worry about like their offensive chemistry as a starting lineup, because bench, it's almost like if it's broke, don't fix it. But at the same time, he deserves to start, especially if he's going to be a core piece. So I wonder how that is coming out of the gate. Those are my questions, my big questions for like the first 10, 20 games of the season. I think that for the most part, this is interesting, actually. First 10 games for the Heat. Bulls, Celtics, Raptors again. Oh, boy. Trailblazers, Warriors, Kings, Pacers, Blazers, and Hornets. Okay, so, like you'd want to be 7-3, right?
You have a stretch to figure it out if it starts bad.
Yeah.
It's built into the first 10 games.
Yeah, like there's Blazers. There's some tough ones there, but the Celtics, Lord knows where they're going to be at by that time as an organization, given what's going on as we speak. 2 Trailblazers games, so they're going to finish with the Trailblazers right off the bat. That's interesting.
Yeah, the way I watch an NBA season is like how Pat Riley explained it one time. He watches it in quarters. So I look at the first 20 games. Man, I'm counting to 12. You got to get to 12. You get 12 wins in your first 20 games, you're on schedule.
Yeah.
Anything below 12 wins, you got an issue. You got a problem.
I think that's well put. So that's kind of where I'm at. I think the start is crucial also because we know some trade eligibility restrictions get lifted in the middle of December.
Ding, 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 ding.
And what's going to happen with, Duncan Robinson.
Our favorite podcast host.
Right. What's going to happen with Duncan Robinson? Dwayne Dedman's going to be trade eligible at some point. Victor Oladipo, I think he's going to be here to stay, but TBD. And then you also have decisions to make on the contracts of Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. So that like the beginning is going to be very fascinating, but I expect them to get off to another good start because that's just what they do. And then they'll make a move at some point mid-season. That's not going to be like a whale, but it's going to be something meaningful. So
I like to throw out a question and see where you guys are at with this. Cause I heard it and I didn't know how to answer it. Okay. And I have my biases against Duncan Robinson, but he could absolutely make an idiot out of me. Okay, he could return to what he was in 2020, and all of that is out the window. But let me ask you guys this: it's May, they're in the second round, deep in the second round of the playoffs. Duncan Robinson is playing 35 minutes a night. Is there any possibility that happens?
I mean, if he's shooting the ball well, I don't know why not. I mean,
So there still is the possibility that they return to his role of 2020.
I think you look at him and Strus. I mean, it's very possible that Strus's shooting could plummet. I mean, when we talk about these guys, their key is the 3-point shooting, which is the most inconsistent shot in basketball. It's if you're not shooting 40%, you're shooting in the 30s, your minutes are going to go down. Strus does a little bit more. I know that was always the joke last year on Twitter. What does he do? He's a little bit more physical. He can get to the basket a little bit easier. He defends a little bit better. But I think either of these guys, and when you start talking about those pieces like a Darius Days or a Haywood Highsmith or a Caleb Martin, and those changes are going to happen based on how they shoot, how they play. I think there's a lot of guys. There's so many guys on this roster that could get minutes. It's going to come down to competition and who plays the best. And that's a beautiful thing, I feel like, because it's better than we've had seasons, even 2 seasons ago, when you were looking down the bench and you're like, man, are we really going to put Trevor Ariza back out there? Like the corpse of Trevor Ariza? At least we have lively bodies.
The rotting cadaver of Trevor Ariza.
Yeah, like let's get Beasley out there for the third stint or something. Like, what are we going to do? Like, it's like, at least these guys are younger, which it can be a problem, but at least you have guys that have shown in recent memory that they can do it. Doesn't mean that Duncan's going to rebound and be great. He might get traded. I think Dwayne Dedman's contract was signed to be traded. Hopefully Omer takes his minutes, but any of those guys could be dealt at any moment if the opportunity exists, I feel like.
I think the most important question for going into this season isn't really how we open up the lineup, and it's who closes and what kind of playmakers are going to be on the floor, what kind of shooters will be on the floor. If you're going to play 3-guard, motion and movement are going to be so important. And who do you know on this team that moves better without the ball than Duncan Robinson? I mean, he led the league 2 years ago, and Miles ran because he was coming off of every screen and every pin down and every off-ball action to find a way
Miles
to
ran
2 inches.
Wow. That's not a stat I expected to hear.
Second spectrum stats in here, baby. This is what you pay for. All right. So look, I mean, like that's the kind of offense you need. You're going to play Bam and Jimmy a lot together this year, and they're going to play extended minutes because the depth for defense isn't that. It's just not there. All right. So realistically, Jimmy has to play a lot of 4. You better make as much freaking space for those two guys as humanly possible. And if Duncan is the dude that's hitting those shots and getting that spacing above the break and not to the corner, he's playing.
We have breaking news that Ime Udoka has officially been suspended for the entire 2022-2023 season, which means their interim coaches, I don't know, they named somebody. It's not Brad Stevens. It's, I think, another white dude. So basically, and it's not Sean Rochester, Coach Sean Rochester. I think if he was offered that job, he would reject it because he would coach the Celtics.
True.
So Ime Udoka suspended, and he got a lot of praise last year for what he did on the court. As well as off, until we learned some things, because of Nia Long is Nia Long. But at the same time, that is an interesting wrinkle into the season because you never know what can happen, and all of a sudden we have the Celtics without their head coach, and they're going to have a replacement who, am I expecting a huge drop off? No, not necessarily, but they also have some health questions because Danilo Gallinari's hurt, Robert Williams, oh boy. We'll see about that knee. Malcolm Brogdon regularly gets hurt. And
Well, am I right? Isn't Danilo Gallinari essentially an empty contract? He's not playing this season?
I think he tore his ACL after the report said that he probably didn't. He did. He in fact did. Unfortunately, I think it's the same knee that he tore before. So they're getting off on the wrong foot because they have 2 pretty significant injuries. A head coach that's, TBD. Well, not TBD. Well, the new head coach is TBD. And all of a sudden, it's like, look, organizational stability, this is why this stuff matters.
No, Robert Williams is going to be game time decision for the first month of the season. So you get an opportunity to try to get a leg up on them in the standings right off the bat. So, yeah.
And remember, they were like, what, 500, sub 500 for most of the first half of the season. Then they got hot in January. So, and the other thing to think about with this, I don't know the new guy coming in, but isn't Utah's coach, what's his name? Will, I can't think of his name. The guy that went to Utah, he went from Boston, right?
You got me. Will.
I can't think of his name. Whatever.
Anyway, I still don't know the OKC coach's name.
Yeah.
We're all Googling,
you know what?
right?
That's
Everyone's
a really
Googling.
good question, man. You got me looking up OKC.
Nick Collison.
I know there's a TH in his last name. Will
Hardy. No.
Will Hardy. No.
Mark Denault.
Oh, it's not a TH. It's a D. Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's Mark Denault.
Will Hardy, not one of the Hardy boys.
None of us deserves to have jobs.
I don't know who the hell Mark Denault is.
Bro, I don't cover the Jazz.
I don't either. It doesn't even sound familiar.
Look, basketball.
He's only 37 years old.
Basketball, boxing, MMA is what you're mostly getting out of me. All right. And betting.
I don't know who the hell that is.
And betting. Let's not forget about that.
Mark Denault.
Regardless, Sean, continue please making your point about the Celtics and their look. I mean, we thought that they were dead in the water last year. And people were flirting with like, are they going to be a play-in team at best? And then they ended up winning the East.
I mean, right now, you would almost have to think the Sixers are now becoming the favorites to win that division.
Agreed.
With all the stuff going on in Boston right now, I mean, I know Philly is Philly, but I mean,
until they suffer an injury, man, I think that it's Philly's division to lose. And
it might just be until Embiid gets hurt. You mean
until Embiid gets hurt,
and
PJ.
And also James Harden and the hamstring that apparently will never recover. The worst hamstring injury of all time. TBD on that. The Toronto Raptors are also like...
Exactly. And I think that the 2 most dangerous teams in this conference right now are really the Raptors and Cavaliers. Just their youth, their spacing, and their length, right? They offer so much on both sides of the ball that I don't know. I need to check what the fuck is going on.
By the way, Brian, the interim head coach for the Celtics is going to be Joe Mazzulla.
Mazzulla, right?
Mazzulla.
Could you tell me what he looks like?
Not a white guy.
What?
Interesting.
No,
Ho.
he's a brother. He's a brother. It's legit.
That's the curveball. I was looking fastball.
Yeah.
Curveball right
There it
past
is.
me.
Joe and Missoula.
Not what.
Yeah, you can look him up. Play ball at Rhode Island.
And apparently West Virginia. Huh.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
He's from Johnston, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
It's a lot of and they just did shotgun Jacoby Brissett on 4th and 2. That was also
4th
a
and
shocker
2
there.
Yeah.
Lots of curveballs coming at us here late in the program.
Anyway, Cleveland, Toronto, young and deep. They're scary.
We'll go for another 10-15 minutes, people. Keep the donations coming. We're in that $400-something range, I believe, if my math is correct. Why don't we get to 5 before we head up out of here?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Betting train. Let's run it.
Why don't we do that? So yeah, we're gonna make sure that goes into the proper hands. But yeah, Joe Missoula, that's an upset. I have a couple jokes, but I don't think they're suitable for this stream, so let's not even do that. But he was a Celtics assistant hired in 2019 and has been for a while. He's also very young for a guy who's going to be a head coach, just 34 years old.
Yeah.
Shout out to him. Rising up the ranks, and was the head coach at Fairmont State at some point. So, I mean, look, he probably, if he's the guy that was their top assistant that they're entrusting with this role, they're obviously like high on him internally. So we'll see what decision gets made there. But Ime Udoka's done for the season, and presume Chris Haynes just reported a decision has not been made beyond that. We could all pretty much safely assume, like, why would you bring him back at this point if it looks the way it does? But even so, I feel like that's a lot of Celtics talk. But back to the Heat, right? Why not talk about Bam? And Pat Riley, again, saying, getting him more touches and finding different ways to get him, scoring opportunities that isn't dribble handoffs, which JQ commented earlier about. I don't care about, because I thought somebody made I think it was Kenny from Miami Heat Beat, shout out to him, made a good point on Twitter the other day where, Bam, if he replaced his putback dunks with one-legged fadeaways, people wouldn't care that he averages 19 points a game during the regular season. And I kind of agree with that. But just what's the next evolution of Bam's game? Because I feel like every season he's added something, even though people who only watch them in the playoffs don't seem to think that.
I mean, I hope it's low post, like we can dump it to him in the low post and he has something he can get to as a bailout play. Because to be truthful, guys, I don't know how much more Bam can do this season offensively. He's going to be required to do a hell of a lot defensively. Just the way that the team is built, he needs to be top flight defensive talent night in, night out.
Yeah, the other thing I would say, and the point of DHOs and 3-point shots are always the topic that comes up. I've always kind of hinted towards short corner, kind of that baseline area, all the way up to the elbows and the nail. That range, being able to consistently shoot there with no hesitation, and you're one dribble away. If you make a fake or you rip and go, you're one dribble and you can make a move at the basket. He should be able to beat almost every big man one dribble away from the basket and then start to push it out to the 3. But until he shows me he can do that consistently, not just once when Jimmy's out against the Nets or whatever that was a couple springs ago, that's what I want to see first.
Yeah. I've always been a big proponent of a Bam field goal attempt counter. But the more I look into it, there's really no correlation to winning with his field goal attempts going up in games last year. And I just looked that up because I remember looking at it and saying, this doesn't check out to me because it felt different to me as I watched it. But the real numbers are the real numbers. He had 19 games where he had more than 14 field goal attempts last year. The Heat was 11-8, and their average margin of victory was 8 points. So, yeah, they won comfortably, but they won 11 of 19 games, 11-8. So there's really no correlation to him being more active and them winning. It's just about getting his game right for the playoffs because there is a correlation to him being active and winning in the playoffs. Yeah. So it's about getting that regular season, getting him into habits in the regular season that he can implement then in the playoffs that'll help them win. Because I really do believe that. Like, I'll die on that hill. He's active. He's putting up shots in the playoffs. The Heat are winning in the playoffs.
Yeah, we saw it in that one Boston game too. You know, and for me, it's also like not waiting until it's Paul Reed or the San Antonio Spurs and being able to do, because like, yo, he has it, right? I don't want to rehash this part of it again, but like, you know, the main things for me is like what Sean said, just having a move to get to the basket and also just a reliable mid-range jumper that he's confident in. That's really it. I feel like that's it. Because with the defense, it's like, I mean, what more can you ask without like trying to get him injured in terms of the ground he's covering? And
I think too, Kyle did such an excellent job at making Bam's game a 1 or a 2 read game. When they were doing their heavy pick and roll sets, Bam would catch the ball and have to read one defender and just kind of see where the big was and if someone was closing out to him on the help. I would love for them to get back to that with Kyle taking a jumper if defenders go below that screen like they did all last season. If that happens, you create so much more space for him. And like Sean said, you get him in space, anything is possible.
Yeah.
So I really think that Kyle's success shooting the ball is directly correlated to how many shot attempts Bam gets up.
To your point, I think one of the things we miss and in talking about last season was Kyle Lowry, I thought was a better floor general than people gave credit for throughout the regular season.
He was great.
Yeah, and a big part of like why Bam had a better regular season last year, I thought was Kyle Lowry's impact in running the show and him having a real point guard, just next to him at all times. And if Kyle Lowry is healthy and plays 60 games or so, relatively healthy, and I think he has good chemistry with Gabe Vincent too. So I think that, you got to feel good about their point guard room, if that's the case. Anything else before we head up out of here, guys, on this Heat front or anything at all?
If this game doesn't cover the over, I'm losing my freaking mind.
Wait, you took the over?
Exactly.
25
mile an hour winds.
Whoa, hold on. On Better Edge, it's 38.5. It's a different line.
I mean, I saw a sports book who doesn't sponsor this program, so I won't mention them, had it at like 37.5. And as people were pounding the under. I mean, what's the score, first of all?
14-13.
Okay, I have Steelers plus 4.5. So
Steelers plus money was such an easy bet.
I'm hoping that's going to be the case. I will say, like, I think that it's going to be interesting because I think we're gonna see similar to last year, where like guys are going to miss games here and there because of nagging injuries and stuff, and then Darius Days and Haywood Highsmith and Omer Yurtseven, who's in a consistent role, I think they're gonna like help lead them to victories. I think that's gonna be happening also. Jimmy's gonna play like 60 something games, maybe. Kyle Lowry 60, and like go ahead, Tony.
Haywood Highsmith is getting minutes, and he might start the season getting minutes because they need rotational defensive help at 4, and I could see him playing with Caleb and Gabe a lot.
He feels like such a Heat pickup. Sean could speak to this.
Yeah, I mean, Tony and I saw him in Vegas. He's huge now. He's added muscle. We've heard Tyler has added muscle. It's that internal, development program in terms of their bodies, their athleticism. The thing that Tony talked about earlier with Duncan, I think applies to everybody. 2 years ago, Jimmy's first year, when we were really, really efficient with body movement, player movement, and then the ball movement. That's going to have to be our offense. We're not a team that's going to be able to isolate Jimmy one-on-one all the time. We don't have that Kevin Durant. We don't have that like ISO scorer. It's all about ball movement, player movement, find these guys wide open, constantly cutting to expose, weaknesses in the defense, collapse the defense with your not necessarily rim pressure because you have a guy that's going to get downhill, but the cuts are going to do the same thing. And we really did that first year, Tyler's rookie year. And then the last 2 years, it kind of went away. But I think leaning back into that, and the first time you're going to see it is Monday when we have 4 guys going into training camp. You're going to see that in those open scrimmages. They're not going to show us everything. They're going to do some stuff for the media, but I think we're going to start to hear a little bit more about the offense and how it's going to evolve a little bit based on what we have on the team.
I like to ask everybody what they think as far as the upcoming season in the Eastern Conference. Last year was an absolute bloodbath where 53 wins got you the 1 seed. Do you think it's going to be top heavy this year, or we're back to having another bloodbath where there could be as many as 11 teams that are legitimate playoff contenders?
Nope. I think it's going to be a bloodbath season because the East is good and it's not a top heavy conference. Like I'm looking at the teams right now who I think will be like in the top 10 playoffs and play in no particular order. The Heat, I feel confident saying that they're going to be in that mix. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Sixers, the Raptors, that's already 5. I think the Bulls will be in that top 10. That's 6. Although I wouldn't give them a 100% chance.
Yeah,
I wouldn't give them a 100% chance, but I feel confident saying they're in that 10. TBD on Lonzo Ball's injuries. That's 6 already, right? The Cavs, the Hawks, that's 8. And then you have the Nets. And who would be 10? Knicks, Wizards, Hornets.
No, I would honestly say the Magic, who have a lot of continuity and some really good talent over there.
I think but even so, you're talking about the 10th team being under this scenario, right? The Knicks, Wizards, Hornets. I'm not rolling with you on the Magic, Tony. I'm not there yet.
No, you'll be proven wrong. You'll be proven wrong, right? The Pistons are another one. Which, by the way,
you know what? The Pistons are a team that I could buy more into. But what I'm basically saying, Alpha, is like I think the East is very good. I think that from this pool, at the Heat, Celtics, Bucks, Sixers, Nets, Cavs, all fancy themselves as contenders. The Hawks maybe, the Raptors maybe, but really that top 6, it's a strong top 6 because then after 6 teams, you're talking about play-in already. And you know how it goes. One of those teams is going to drop down and then somebody is going to surprise us. I don't know who it's going to be. I actually don't think Washington is terrible. I just don't like a team led by Bradley Beal and Kristaps Porzingis, but they have a lot of role players that I like on that team, some of which certain teams should probably trade for. But I think it's going to be a bloodbath.
I hand you 48 wins for the Heat right now. Do you take it? Or you play the season?
I think they can get 50.
I'm playing the season.
I think yeah, because I for me it's like I think to your point, Alf, that you made earlier, getting 50 is going to matter because if you look at the standings from last year, they have 53. Celtics, Bucks, Sixers all have 51. Top 4. You get 50 wins. You're home for at least the first series, and then after that, the drop off was to 48 with the Raptors, 46 with the Bulls, etc. I think you want to get 50 because if you're getting 48 by this math at least, and if you're expecting it to be a bloodbath again, you're looking at a 5 seed, and I don't. Even though they got to the finals before. As a 5 seed, I wouldn't want a 5 seed in this East.
You give me 48 and a completely healthy roster for game 1 of the playoffs. Check it off. We won't have a whole lot to do over the next couple of months because we're not playing, but I'll take Alpha bet right there.
You could keep the team in the Bahamas with an extended training camp. You know, they could, in fact, send them to Europe and have them play against all those teams out there. You know,
it's gonna hurt Ethan's bottom line, but we'll all find work.
Ours
somewhere.
too. Well, you know what? To Sean's point though, if you make it Alpha, if you make it 48 in health. I think I might do that. Let the other team
I'll take 48 in health.
Yeah, but I don't know if you're getting health. Like that's the thing about this.
It's the thing about Spo though. You give me 12 guys and Eric Spoelstra, and I just think he's going to find a way to win regular season games. Dudes are going to be conditioned. They're going to play hard defense. He just finds ways to win in regular season.
I mean, playoffs too.
Definitely playoffs.
Let's not end it in the regular season. Playoffs too, but. Yeah, I mean, East is going to be really tough, and honestly, the West doesn't even intrigue me like that.
Jaden Ivey getting my Rookie of the Year vote right now. I'm putting that bet in as soon as Better Edge opens that up.
You know
who do you have? Who do you have for Rookie of the Year?
Jaden Ivey.
Okay.
Detroit has
the way you were talking about Orlando.
No. I mean, Paul.
We got some spam in the chat. That means
gonna
wrap
be
it
real
up.
good, bro.
Yeah.
They
I
know we're
saw.
slacking.
Paolo Banchero, he played what, 2 games in the summer league. Those 2 games in the summer league, wow,
Dominant. But Franz is still there, and he's still will man the ball. He's really good. They just have dudes over in
And
Orlando. I
kept
think
Mobamba
Paolo's
for
going to
some
set
reason.
up. Yeah, I didn't get that.
I didn't get that.
But my thing with Detroit,
I'll trade for him though.
you have to shade Cade. You have to shade Duran or Isaiah Stewart if they're down by the rim. So you have Jaden Ivey just attacking bent defenses all year and playing in transition all year. Rookie of the year goes to who scores the freaking most points. It doesn't matter who the better player is.
And Jaden Ivey will have an amazing locker room presence in Kemba Walker on his team.
Well, he's going to be – Jaden Ivey is going to be a fun personality. Kemba Walker will get no spotlight.
Without Kelly Olynyk there, I don't know if he has the leadership.
Good point. Good point.
It's a big loss. It's a big loss.
I do miss Kelly spitting on his hands and rubbing his hair, dude. I really do.
Ugh, gross. I forgot about that too. We could end it there actually. Thank you to everybody who donated. We raised about $400 something. So 100 something to each of the 3 organizations. I guess is what we're gonna do. So look, that's not small, and hopefully, if you're watching this after the fact, go ahead and donate it. The links will be in the description. Some people also did that, so let's also count that as well. But yeah, no small feat. I feel like we did a good thing, and it's important. It's important, obviously, because Puerto Rico has been getting clapped up. Hurricane Maria 5 years ago, which a lot of people died. And then we have this, we have earthquakes, climate change is real, people. So yeah, don't even get me started on that. Thank you to everybody, Alejandro, for producing, for rocking with us, obviously, and helping put this together with me and everyone at 5 Reasons Sports, for Ethan providing the platform for us to do things like this. Sean, we did this earlier in the summer, and we raised a good amount of money for Children's Hospital. So we're doing that again here. Al for rocking with us for 2 segments, and Sean and Tony for checking in right at the tail end. If you're watching this after the fact, make sure you donate. Thank you to Jose and everyone else who was watching. We are out of here. Thanks again.